threatened powerful global interests, leading to external interference in our affairs. Mr. Speaker, today we recall with clarity the role of foreign forces, particularly the Central Intelligence Agency, CIA of the United States of America, as contained in the famous book, The Great Deception, in orchestrating the coup that toppled Dr. Nkrumah's government. Declassified documents and historical accounts confirm what many suspected all along, that his removal was not merely an internal matter, but a well-calculated act of imperial subversion. This betrayal was not just against Nkrumah, but against the aspirations of all Ghanaians and Africans. The consequences of that coup were and had died. It derailed Ghana's industrial and infrastructural progress, reversed our trajectory towards economic self-reliance, and left us vulnerable to cycles of instability and dependency. To this day, we continue to grapple with the remnants of that intervention in our economic structures, governance, and national psyche. Relevant today, it's our duty as representatives of the people to champion policies that reflect his ideals of economic independence, Pan-African unity, and social justice. We must invest in industrialization, protect our national resources, and prioritize the well-being of all our people above all else. On this day, let's commit ourselves to Ghana's progress, drawing inspiration from Osagyefo's unwavering dedication to the African cause. Remains unshaken, and it's upon us to ensure that his legacy lives on. Finally, Mr. Speaker, I would like to request that through a motion from this House and consistent with popular demands from the Ghanaian people, that each of the 16 regions should have a monument, preferably libraries, named after Dr. Kwame Nkrumah as and when funds are available. May we always remember and may we always strive to build the Ghana that Nkrumah dreamed of. I thank you, Mr. Speaker, for this opportunity.
I will take 2-2 as usual. So let me begin from here. Then I'll come here, go here, go here. Then. Yes, honourable member.
Thank you very much, Right Honourable Speaker, for the opportunity to contribute to the statement made by my honourable friend on the other side. Kwame Nkrumah, we all know, played an important role in the independence of this country. And so any day that we ought to celebrate the legacy of Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, ordinarily it is very fine and we all support. But on this day, the statement read is in relation to the overthrow of Osagyefo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. And we all understand from history, right from 1947, when Dr. Nkrumah came to Ghana, or then Gold Coast, to support the independence struggle, his contribution to the independence struggle, which later culminated into his ascension as the president of Ghana. So from the time that Dr. Nkrumah became president, ordinary at the time, including trying to pass or make Ghana a one-party state, were some of the concerns that led people in that time to object and fight against those decisions of His Excellency Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. For me, it's important that we learn lessons from history. When we move forward, or we fast forward to our current 1992 Constitution and its dispensation, we can clearly say that the lessons of Osagyefo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, we as the political class or elite in this country ought to be careful, because our actions and inactions have the tendency to call on others who have problems with the politics that we do to also take certain actions that can affect the democracy that we all look forward to. So in as much as it is very sad to see an overthrow of a constitutionally elected government, it is very important that in our dispensation, we protect the democracy with the actions that we take as a government. Some of these actions include protecting the fundamental human rights of our citizenry. And when we raise issues which we just discussed about press freedom and broadcasting freedom, these are all avenues that allows the Ghanaian populace to be able to vent or air their views in this country. And so any attempt to curtail some of these things have the tendency of obstructing or bringing people who have hot heads to take certain decisions against our democracy. So on this day, I want to join hands with my colleague, commending him for reminding this chamber of the overthrow of Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. But I believe that we all in this parliament have to protect the democracy that we have established under the 4th Constitutional Republic of this country. Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker, for the opportunity.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me the opportunity to contribute to this statement ably made by our colleague. The statement is a reminder of criminality in our body politics. It's a reminder of a criminal and justifiable overthrow of a democratically elected President of the Republic of Ghana. People can never be absolutely satisfied by any leader. The immediate past government, people were not satisfied by certain decisions. And of course, even this government, people may not be satisfied with certain decisions taken. But that is not a license to torpedo, truncate the democratic processes. What is grievous about the criminal overthrow of Nkrumah is the fact that people allowed people outside this country to influence that. And there are ample evidences, conclusively, stating without any doubt that the overthrow of Nkrumah was not planned in Ghana. It was planned by the people who felt we needed to still come into them bowl in hand so that they can dictate to us how this country is governed. Nkrumah said he won't do that. It is shocking that there have been subtle attempts to justify the criminal act perpetrated by certain people in this country by using certain policy interventions of Nkrumah. Show me one single thing Nkrumah did without passing through the due process of law. Even the PDA, which indeed has been repudiated and condemned by many of our friends, cannot question the legality of that action. It was an action that was taken by the Parliament of Ghana. And it is amazing that this attempt to find justification to an illegality, for me, is laughable, to say the list. Don't judge me by my height. Judge me by the depth from which I began. And you would understand the justification in taking certain actions Nkrumah took. There were certain cities in this country Nkrumah, as the sitting president, could not travel to. Certain cities in this country. You had a woman in Kumasi who they used pestle to pound at the private part of that woman. And you know the woman's crime? She was only a member of CPP. So at that time, and interestingly, people who are now condemning one-party state, they were hailing another leader who had passed one-party state. Efo Boanyi was their hero, yet they are condemning one-party state. I think that the hypocrisy in our body politics ought to be avoided. Nkrumah is the founder, the only founder of the state Ghana. I have heard, Mr. Speaker, I have heard people who have even argued that the big six, there are big six. Maybe perhaps they do not appreciate the day that so-called big six came to being. It was after the 1948 riot, when Ghanaians, ex-servicemen, who fought a war that had nothing to do with them, and promises were made to these Ghanaians by the so-called colonial masters. When they were making demand, there was a military leader of the British called Major Imrie, who instructed those ex-servicemen to be gunned down. That occasioned a riot. At that time, Nkrumah was at Salt Pond. When people were round up, all the so-called fights which added to Nkrumah, when they interrogated, they said they didn't organize it. It was Nkrumah who organized it. At the time when the 1948 riot happened, Nkrumah was not even in Accra. They said they never participated in the 1948 riot. Yet they want us to call them Big Six. So, Mr. Speaker, there is nothing like Big Six. There was only one, and that one is Osajefo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. Right, Honorable Speaker, it is important.
Thank you.
Oh, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. 5 minutes.
Let me conclude.
Conclude.
Mr. Speaker, what is hurtful? Mr. Speaker, what is hurtful for some of us who are in academia, and I speak as a political scientist. Mr. Speaker, Nkrumah has gotten people to write an African encyclopedia. On the campus of a university, I have acquired 3 degrees. I shamefully want to state that university brought all the writings of Nkrumah, including the African encyclopedia, which was virtually completed, to be bent at the supervision of lecturers of that university. I feel ashamed that I had 3 degrees from that university.
Thank you.
The history of this country can never be rewritten. Nkrumah is the founder. He will remain the founder.
Thank you.
And unfortunately, we have named state edifices after criminals who indeed participated in the overthrow of the first democratically elected government in this country. Nkrumah has no equal. He will remain the founder. He will remain the hero, no matter the death. And it is, Mr. Speaker, to conclude, it is not for nothing.
Thank you.
To conclude, Mr. Speaker, to conclude, just I beg you. It is not for nothing. Nkrumah was voted African of the millennium.
Thank you.
African of the millennium.
Thank you.
Nkrumah, among all the heroes in Africa, respect the name of Nkrumah.
Honorable Tampuli. It appears when we mention Kwame Nkrumah, it's like, yes, Honorable Tampuli.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I rise to contribute to the statement that was made to commemorate the anniversary of the overthrow of the first Prime Minister, first President of the Republic of Ghana. Mr. Speaker, that overthrow, as well as subsequent overthrows, have been blots on our nation, Ghana. Mr. Speaker, it's been said, and it's very repeating, that the more things change, the more they remain the same. Things that happened after the overthrow of Osajefo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah that we condemn. Same things happened after the overthrow of Professor K. Buzia. More recently, the overthrow of the Hila Liman administration. Mr. Speaker, the flogging of women and putting things, excuse me to say, in their private parts continued after the 1981 overthrow of the Hillel Limann administration. Mr. Speaker, very close by here, Makola women were stripped naked. Justice Park in Koforidua. Mr. Speaker, there are a litany of such examples across the country. Mr. Speaker, the immediate speaker who made a commentary made reference to the fact that all the things that happened during the Kwame Nkrumah administration were made pursuant to laws that were passed. Mr. Speaker, be that as it is also true that the Nazi Adolf Hitler, every action that Adolf Hitler took pursuant to law. So, Mr. Speaker, it is not about whether it is pursuant to law or absence of law. It is about the morality of the law. Mr. Speaker, it's about the morality of the law. So, Mr. Speaker, when you make reference to law, everything that we spoke about this morning is made pursuant to a certain law. So, Mr. Speaker, yes, indeed, we are not happy about military overthrow. There are excesses even in our democratic experiments. There are excesses. It does not call for military interventions. Mr. Speaker, we have had, military interventions across the West Africa sub-region. And one would have thought that in this day and age, military interventions will be things of the past. But, Mr. Speaker, we still have, coupists, taking the reins of power in Niger. We have in Burkina Faso, Mali, Guinea, Gabon, and so on and so forth. So, Mr. Speaker, when we celebrate and commemorate days like this, it also reminds us that we must all roundly condemn coupists who are still in our midst, even up to today, and not give them room to operate. We don't have to give them the kind of recognition that we are giving them now, unless, of course, we are saying that what happened in 1966 is something that we are going to be very proud and happy about. Mr. Speaker, I thank you for the opportunity to make
you very much.
Some short statement, comments to the statement. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable members, the first timers, let me remind you, tomorrow is the backbenchers' day. So rest for tomorrow. Tomorrow I'll give you enough time to do whatever you want to do. So let me invite the Minister for Foreign Affairs to comment on.
Well, thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, for the opportunity to contribute to this solemn statement. The 24th of February 1966 coup, the first coup recorded in Ghana. And indeed, that is the coup that triggered a chain reaction of coups on the African continent. Mr. Speaker, after the 24th of February 1966 coup, the jury has returned that the Osagefo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah is the best leader that this continent has ever seen, and indeed ranks very highly as one of the best leaders the whole world has ever known. Mr. Speaker, the maker of the statement, my good friend, the Honorable MP for Ho, the Honorable Edem Kotosu, has to be commended for commemorating this day. And indeed, I would like to encourage him to institutionalize this commemoration so that every year we shall be remembered. All of us ought to remember that 24 February 1966 is Ghana's day of shame. It marks the darkest hour in the history of our country. By 24 February 1966, what Osagyefo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah had achieved in education, in energy, in infrastructure, indeed, the analysis has been done that a lot of the first world countries today, they were nowhere near Ghana in 1966. By the time Kwame Nkrumah commissioned our harbors, many European countries did not have the kind of harbor we had. By the time he commissioned the Tema Motorway, many in cosmopolitan Europe were waiting to have a motorway of that nature. By the time the Akosombo Dam was commissioned, there were many, many countries in Europe, in the Americas, and in Africa who had absolutely no idea. They could not even conceptualize the vision, the technology that went into creating the world's biggest man-made lake at the time. The Akosombo Dam was not created by Nkrumah to power just Ghana, but it was to create electricity for the sub-region, and indeed to industrialize and create jobs for our people. So this is a man
Minister, conclude for us.
This is a man who was ahead of his peers, and he has been vindicated. When the international community was asked by the BBC at the beginning of the new millennium to vote for the man of the millennium, he competed with the likes of Nelson Mandela, with the likes of Julius Nyerere, with the likes of Sam Nujoma, with the likes of Fidel Castro, and yet the Osagyefo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah emerged as the African of the millennium. And Mr. Speaker, on this day, we should be reminded that those who staged that coup with their Western collaborators, the CIA declassified files, has settled this matter beyond doubt, that was not only a local orchestration, they had international support from those who thought that if they allowed Kwame Nkrumah to continue the way he was going. Indeed, when you read the ambassador at the time, Mahoney, as I conclude, in Mahoney's own words, he said that the kind of enlightenment that Kwame Nkrumah was bringing to the continent and liberating the minds of the African people to the progress of their continent. And that is why they collaborated with feed columnists to mastermind that coup d'etat. But history has taught us that you can overthrow a government, you can kill a man, but you cannot kill his vision, you cannot kill his ideals,
Thank you.
You cannot kill his
Minister.
legacy. And that is why even after his he's the only man.
Okay.
I thank you for your kindest indulgence, for allowing me to contribute to the statement ably made by our colleague on the other side in commemorating Osagyefo Kwame Nkrumah. Honorable Speaker, I think that we have to be very careful in this country. Nobody in this country, nor on this continent, can wish away the contributions of Kwame Nkrumah or better memory. Nobody. He did contribute his quota to the advancement of this country. Mr. Speaker, somebody said that if you could see far, you must thank those who helped you to see that far. Kwame Nkrumah rode on the back of individuals who saw that he could be an asset to the country. There were individuals who brought Kwame Nkrumah to the Gold Coast. When we are praising Kwame Nkrumah, what I don't want us to do as intellectuals and as members of parliament is that we don't have to belittle others in our quest to promote others. We must all applaud all those who helped to make this country what it is right now. Kwame Nkrumah played his roles, but others also played their roles. Let us not, through our politicking, undermine the efforts of others. That is wrong, and that will not help advance our democracy. We must stop that. We must stop this division that we are bringing into our politics and our country. It is not right. It is not right. We must stop that. Mr. Speaker, no individual is perfect. No individual is perfect. All our leaders did some good, and there were some wrongs as well. But in all our doings, we are looking for the best that they did. And that should occupy our minds when we are making submissions. I will never, regardless of the mistakes or errors that Kwame Nkrumah made, to paint him black, I will never. Because he was a good man, and he did his best. The same thing applies to J.B. Danquah and the others. And when you boldly say that Kwame Nkrumah is the founder of this country, I will contest you on that.
Thank you,
I won't
Professor
contest you on that,
Nyako.
but I will tell you that there were a lot of people who helped this country to obtain independence.
Thank you, Professor Nyako.
There were founders who built this country. Let us praise all of them. Let us identify their unique strengths, and let us stop the political
Thank you very much.
And let's stop the political hatred. It will help nobody. Mutala, it will not help nobody. Respect those who also help this country. Respect J.B. Danquah. Respect Akwaje.
Professor Nyako, thank you so much.
Respect all of them. I, Kingsley Nyako, I respect all our founders.
Professor Nyako.
I respect J.J. Wallace, regardless of his wrongs. What is this? Let us go Ghana. And let's build one Ghana. We are one people. Let us be proud of Ghana. Mr. Speaker, thank you. As I said earlier on, you are a nice man. I like you so much. May God bless you
Honorable members,
and make you great. Thank you.
Honorable members, if I become magnanimous to you, you should also do well to at least listen to me. Professor Nyako, the time was close for you, but at least I stand. Yes, Honorable Hajia.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Thank you for the opportunity to contribute to the statement made by my colleague on this very, very, very important subject of the coup d'etat of 24th February 1966. Mr. Speaker, many a Ghanaian have held the view that 1966, 24th February, was the day, 24th February, It's your birthday. Oh, I'll sing happy birthday to you when I'm done. Remind me. Please remember that you've taken part of my time.
I was born exactly the day Kwame Nkrumah was overthrown.
That's sad.
So
that's sad. That's very sad.
Let's hear you.
So, Mr. Speaker, that day was a very, very sad day for humanity. And it was a sad day for humanity because Kwame Nkrumah's vision and influence transcended the borders of this country. It transcended the borders of Africa. And it had impact to the Western world. But we woke up to that sad development. 59 years later, we are still reeling under the dire effects of that unfortunate situation. Mr. Speaker, self-introspection is a form of healing. And so when I hear some of my colleagues contributing and advocating that some other people have to also be recognized, that it means they are still living in the past, Mr. Speaker. So very sad that we've come 59 years after this development that set our country and our continent back. And we as a people owe it to ourselves to speak truth to ourselves, to look at where we went wrong. That's the only way we can correct. If we insist that we did right on 24th February 1966, then I'm afraid to say, Mr. Speaker, that there is no light at the end of the tunnel for this country. And I want to encourage all my colleagues here that it is time for introspection. We don't have to look far, Mr. Speaker. On my way to Parliament this morning, I was tuned to City News. And City News, the panel there were discussing this unfortunate day in our history. And they made very, very serious observations that at the time Nkrumah was overthrown, most of the people he thought were his loyalists abandoned him. That some of them even came round to the regime that had overthrown him, pledged their support and loyalty. I want to believe that even if those people are not alive today, their children and their grandchildren are alive in this country. And they will appreciate the treachery of this group of people who worked with other civilizations to overthrow so far the best government that this country has ever had. Sunday, Mr. Speaker, I was celebrating my uncle's 85th birthday. And Tina Peggy Donko of GTV was there because my uncle, a retired colonel, was at Juba Villas with them. And she made a very important point when we interacted. She said in the mid-80s, it was okay for her father, Colonel Donko, and my uncle, Colonel Brima, to bundle all the kids to Damangu Secondary School for secondary education. Mr. Speaker, why was the reason? The reason was that Dr. Osajifo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah had ensured that there was a certain quality of education across the board in the whole country. That it didn't matter where we went to school. We didn't have A schools and B schools and C schools. We all went to school and we received quality education. His Ghana Education Trust is akin to His Excellency President John Dramani Mahamad's e-school project that brings education to every community. Mr. Speaker, let me remind Ghanaians of one important virtue.
Honorable member, don't abuse my magnanimity.
When we went to secondary school, you had Honorable Afenyo Make, the minority leader, speak Ghana to my sister
Honorable
here at yesterday. And he was surprised that she could speak Ghana. At another time, he spoke Chi to Honorable Harun Edrisu, and he was surprised that he could speak Chi. Mr. Speaker,
Honorable
because we
members.
went to school as a unit, as Ghanaians first, before, and this is all thanks to the Osajefo.
Honorable members.
Thank you for the opportunity, Mr. Speaker.
I am marking all those.
Should I still sing happy birthday to you? Happy birthday to you.
Yes, let him come to leadership. So if he can extend. Yes, minority leader. You want to do what? Yes.
Speaker, let me commend the maker of the statement for bringing this matter to the fore, and also on such an important day in the history of our country. I think it's important. This is not the first time such a statement is being made in this House. And in times past, I realize it plays out. It becomes a competition. Who loves Nkrumah most? And who owns Nkrumah most? And attempts are made to create the impression we love Nkrumah most and you are against Nkrumah. I think that is most unfortunate. It's most unfortunate. And I will not yield to your temptation to go and be responding to who did what and who did not do what. That for me is unnecessary. Nkrumah is dead and gone. It is up to us to build on what Nkrumah built, not to unnecessarily making references and building, casting aspersions and some statements which are totally unnecessary. Speaker, would he also
Honorable
listen to
Murtala.
us? When you were speaking, we will listen to you. Speaker.
Murtala, nowadays you are not like ordinary member. No. Now you should consider yourself as a minister, please. Yes, Honorable.
Speaker, Nkrumah's sense of Pan-Africanism is known, is respected globally, what he stood for. We all know it. We love Nkrumah, as you also do. But let's also say it, that Nkrumah was brought into this country by a certain power grant. That is part of the history. And oftentimes people have created the impression it is we against them. Two sets of people who are blazing the trail in terms of building and developing our history as a country. Independence in the shortest possible time, independence now. How is it the case that it is only Nkrumah who fought? How is it the case? It is not true. And let's depart from that argument. All of our torchbearers and all these icons contributed one way or the other. Of course, we salute Nkrumah. He did so well. But there were other allies. So when the history is being told, let's tell the history in whole. Let's stop selecting and choosing. We pick and choose. We pick and choose. And then we say that Nkrumah is the lone hero. It's not entirely true. Speaker, in recent times, I know, for instance, the Nkrumah Mausoleum, which had been abandoned for a very long time, the last resting place of a respected icon of this continent, was abandoned. Go there now and look at it. Who did it? Under His Excellency Akufo-Addo's term. It has been refurbished, and now it has become a very important tourist center. The main road leading to Nkrumah's hometown. Who built it? It's the same New Patriotic Party government. So, colleagues, let's get it right. We all celebrate Nkrumah. We all love him. But let's not mix up the history. Speaker, the building of history and the development of this fact must go hand in hand. The building of industries. Nkrumah built over 300 industries, factories. I don't need to tell them. The history is clear. I will not tell you that it was at whose instance that all these factories were sold like tomatoes. These tomatoes were sold. So, Speaker, we want to get the history right. Let's all appreciate that Nkrumah has done what he did. So, these factories, I'm sure if we had not sold them, if we had not sold these factories, now we will be building on these factories. You sold them. We sold them. And now we want to play pious and say that we love Nkrumah more than anybody. Most unfortunate. Nkrumah remains an icon of Africa. Nobody can take that away. But I insist that there was a certain power grant, there was a certain J.B. Dankwa, there was a certain Akwa J. All these people contributed to the development of Ghana, the emergence of Ghana. All these people contributed. So, Speaker, then the maker of the statement also mentioned in passing the need for us to build monuments, Nkrumah's monument. I think the best way we can remember Nkrumah and celebrate him, and not just Nkrumah, also celebrate other icons of this continent and this country, is to instill what they stood for in our schools and educational centers. The building of physical infrastructure and monument is not enough. They will be destroyed over the passage of time. These monuments will be destroyed over the passage of time. What did Nkrumah stood for? Pan-Africanism. Pan-Africanism. Pan-Africanism and all these are the things we should pay attention to. Speaker, these are the things we should pay attention to so that we can instill this into our schools and get our younger generations to imbibe these lessons and to build a nation that we can all be proud of. So we celebrate Nkrumah. It's important we celebrate Nkrumah, but we should not lose sight of the other icons, like the Power Grant, the Akwa Ejade, all contributed to the building of modern Ghana now. Speaker, I think this should be the narrative. Anytime these statements are made about icons, let's not let it degenerate to become partisan, for us to become we and them, the NPP and the NDC. This thing will not help us. I think when we speak like this, it will be more inclusive and it will help us in the development of our country. Speaker, on this note, I thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you very much. Majority Leadership.
Mr. Speaker, I'll yield to Honorable Agaga.
Very well. Honorable James Agaga, please, you have the floor.
Mr. Speaker, I want to thank the maker of the statement for putting together such a wonderful piece in memory of the darkest moment in our history. Mr. Speaker, I have taken pains to conduct some research to try to establish why Kwame Nkrumah was overthrown, whether or not the factors which may have accounted for his overthrow are justified is another matter for a thorough debate. But, Mr. Speaker, my findings shows that Kwame Nkrumah was accused of being a dictator. And that is why the CIA then decided to collaborate with people in this country whose forebears, whose ancestors are the likes of J.B. Dankwa Obechebi Lamte, and the names go on and on and on and on. They are the four best.
Honorable member, please. It's a comment, and you don't have to. No. It will degenerate
Speaker,
into.
I said I did some research. I don't know whether the defense minister wants to engage me on who the four best of the people who collaborated with the CIA are. I'm not sure he wants to engage me in a debate like that.
You let me listen to him. He had already wanted to make a comment, so let me listen to
Mr.
his
Speaker,
point of order.
The comments I wanted to make, I reserve those comments for later date, or even maybe next year. But I just wanted the honorable member to note that if you do not have evidence that you can tender into this house, please move away from mentioning the names of people who were not directly involved in the 1966 coup. We know the architects of the 1966 coup. We know their names. If you want to mention their names, we don't have a problem. But if you decide to mention names of people who were not there, it is very, very wrong. Because you don't have any evidence. And I think he should withdraw that part of his statement. If you mention Kotoka, you mention Afrifa, you mention those people, nobody has a problem because we all know it. Just like if I want to mention 1981, I will mention the names. 1979, I will mention the names. The party you formed, the party you are contesting from, the party from which you are, you remove Liman, I will mention the names. I don't have a problem. You are beneficiaries of coup d'etats. You, all of you are beneficiaries of coup d'etats. I don't have a problem with that. But don't mention the name of any other person. Don't.
Hey. Honorable Motala, please. Yes, honorable member. But honorable member, do you have evidence of the names you mentioned?
Mr. Speaker, I mentioned Obechebi Lamte, and he says I should furnish this house with evidence. In fact, there is a reported judgment of the Court of Appeal. Do you know what? Interestingly, one of the justices who presided over the conviction of Obechebi Lamte in absentia was Akufo-Addo's father. The conviction was related to acts of terror, which subsequently resulted in the commission of further acts of terror, leading to the overthrow of Nkrumah. So don't go there. Don't go there. Further research indicates that J.B. Dankwa was certified of the CIA. And it is the CIA which eventually overthrew Kwame Nkrumah. So don't ask me to furnish you with evidence. If you do, you open a can of worms. But Mr. Speaker, let me return to my contribution.
Yeah, contribute and conclude, please. We've taken a lot of time.
Mr. Speaker, I was interjected by the other side. So please,
James, go ahead.
And Mr. Speaker, Kwame Nkrumah has been criticized wrongly as leading a dictatorial government, which made it practically impossible for Kwame Nkrumah to be overthrown through the power of the thumb. But, Mr. Speaker, the history is very clear. Starting from 1951, after Kwame Nkrumah broke away from the UGCC and founded the CPP led by Nkrumah routed the UGCC and its subsequent, offshoots in successive elections. Starting from 1951, they were routed. In 54, they were routed. In 57, they were routed. And so, Mr. Speaker, they decided that it was time to say goodbye to elections and to engage in acts of terror. Speaker, if you read Nkrumah's autobiography, Dark Days in Ghana, Nkrumah recounts how 6 attempts were made to assassinate him. 6. One of them was staged at Kulungungu. On another occasion, a police officer named Ametepe fired at Nkrumah at close range. But Mr. Speaker, Kwame Nkrumah personally, after he had been deserted by all his guards, personally wrestled Ametepe to the floor and disarmed him. This is what Kwame Nkrumah went through. And so when the PDA, Preventive Detention Act, was passed, it was a response to acts of terror. Acts of terror. Mr. Speaker, after 9/11, we all know what the United States did. And so when acts of terror have been unleashed on the people, you don't talk about protection of fundamental human rights. When those terrorists attempted to kill Nkrumah, did they care a hoot about Nkrumah's rights? So after 9/11, Mr. Speaker, the United States government, which is supposed to be the champion of democracy, adopted methods, some of which were very stringent, including the introduction of waterboarding. At the detention camps in Afghanistan, waterboarding was one of the methods they used.
James,
Mr. Speaker.
James, conclude for us.
In conclusion, the point I am trying to make is that Kwame Nkrumah was not a dictator. He was overthrown because his Pan-African project, his quest to have Africa united, was a threat to Western interests. And that is why they elected to collaborate with dishonorable people in our own country. So Kwame, you worked so hard for this country, and we shall forever cherish and remember you. Amen.
Honourable members, thank you. Bring statement time to a close. Today we've listened to 5 statements, and I believe we've all contributed. As I said earlier, tomorrow is reserved for backbenchers. It's the last Wednesday of the month. So tomorrow, the newcomers, you have the field day of taking charge of almost everything in the chamber. So tomorrow, prepare. The chamber will be for you. Yes, I'm told the Honorable Minister for Foreign Affairs would like to engage members relating to matters of members' interest. So I think, is it close sitting? Close sitting. So on that note, I will suspend the House, then we come in. Okay, Leader.
Speaker, I think originally the Foreign Minister was programmed to brief the House on a matter important on Friday. Then the Deputy Whip related to me that there is a subject matter related to concerns on passports and diplomatic passport acquisition also. It's equal and important matter, and I would have loved to sit in. So you can look at the chamber. If it is so pleased to you that we should have it. I thought it was a very important matter, and we should give a proud notification to members. Then we can have a good number of us in the chamber. This is my view. If you are so strongly minded that we should have it today, there's no problem. But I thought that we should give prior notification to members, and then we can have a good number of us in the chamber. Then once and for all, the minister can brief the House. But if we are so minded that we should still proceed, I wouldn't have any objection. But ideally, we should have given a prior notification.
Very well. So I'm just here for your pressure, the pressure of the House.
Yeah, Mr. Speaker, thank you very much. Mr. Speaker, originally the minister is programmed to brief the House on Friday. But you all know Thursday is the State of the Nation address, and there will be a lot on members. And that same Friday, we'll be traveling outside Accra for a workshop. So this is information he's going to share with us. After that, we can pass on those information to other members. I think by 10 to 15 minutes, it will be done so that we can share that same information to colleagues who are not here. So I think we can have it, and then we'll move on.
Very well. Honorable members, I'm told we are going to have joint caucus. So if it's a joint caucus, then it means we have to adjourn the House. Then we can have the caucus meeting. I thought it was going to be a closed sitting. But if it's a joint caucus, then we will proceed to adjourn the House. And the time, I'm told last Friday I said 5 to 4, and people were describing me as old timer, old school. So now it's 10 minutes to 4, and per our standing orders, we've gone beyond the normal sitting hours. So you are obviously in my hands. So I'll proceed to adjourn the House to tomorrow, the 26th day of February 2025 at 10 o'clock in the forenoon. The House stands adjourned.